General Assembly's adoption of Resolution 1812 in 1947 partitioned historic Palestine and led to injustice and tragedy imposed upon its people in 1948, known as Al-Nakba. More than three-quarters of historic Palestine was forcibly seized. 531 Palestinian towns and villages were destroyed, and 85% of the population were expelled or displaced. As a consequence, some 4.6 million of Palestinian refugees are still dispersed all over the Middle East. The movement reiterates its concern over Israel's continuous illegal policies and practices, including serious violations of the human rights and constant war crimes that have resulted in great suffering and hardships for the Palestinian people.
The Palestinian people have for more than 60 years suffered from statelessness, dispossession and dispersal in exile, awaiting fulfillment of their right to return.
Many ask how it is possible that while Israel, with a population imported chiefly from Europe, can celebrate its state's anniversary, the people of Palestine, Canaanian in origin, and having lived more than 4,000 years in its lands, has not been able to enjoy this fundamental right and remains excluded from the rest of the nations of the world. United Nations General Assembly Resolution 181 of 1947 divides Palestine into two, a Jewish state and another Arab state. The Israelis used their military force and occupied territories allocated to the Palestinian people in order to destroy that state. More than 800,000 Palestinians were uprooted and driven into exile. Villages, towns, temples, mosques, churches, monuments with centuries of antiquity were destroyed and demolished. Thousands of years of human settlement, ways of life, customs, and a whole culture were expelled from their ancestral lands.
Our meeting this year coincides with the passage of 6 decades on the catastrophe or the Nakba of the Palestinian people. Israel continues to build the racist dividing wall.
This year is the 60th anniversary of the creation of the first United Nations peacekeeping operation, following the Al-Nakba, or the disaster which created the plight of Palestinian refugees.
2008 is the 60th anniversary of the disappropriation of the Palestinians on the Nakba Day, when hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were forced to leave their homes and their properties in 1948.
It is unacceptable that year after year in this hall we take note of the more than 60 years of suffering of the fraternal and heroic people of Palestine. The history of a people compelled by force and brutality to leave their homes, their belongings and their crops behind. In a climate of state terrorism, there can be no climate of tolerance and reconciliation.